The top search trends for April. Welcome back to another Techstination interview. And with us from Google is technology and trends expert Molly VandenBerg. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Fred. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to see you again. Well, what were the biggest search trends during the month of April?
As you know, we take a look back across the month on a number of different categories. And one that I think is a favorite among everyone month after month is entertainment. And this month we saw both the Grammy Awards and Coachella start to trend. I think people are really excited that live music is back. And so a couple of insights from that. First being that Olivia Rodrigo continues to make waves. She was the top searched artist during the Grammys and of course won Best New Artist. And then with Coachella, one thing that I think is really interesting is that we saw searches spike over 5,000% for Coachella packing list. And if I were to bring one thing to Coachella, it would be sunscreen, but it seems like people were looking for shoes, bags, and hats to bring along with them.
You know, and it's interesting. I mean, the artist, is number one, I guess it was number one in trend searches, all except for a couple of states. But if she was running for president, obviously this would be a sweep.
I think so too. She's undeniably popular and her songs are really catchy, so I can understand why.
What are some of the other things that you saw in trends? I mean, Earth Day was this month. The tax deadline was in April.
Yes, two big moments that happened there. And within Earth Day, one thing that I really like to see is people looking to do their part for the planet. In fact, searches for countertop compost hit an all-time high in 2022. So I think people are looking for ways that they can live more sustainably. We also see on Google Maps spikes in searches for things like used clothing stores. So a lot of people figuring out how they can contribute. And then Tax Day, as you mentioned, is always an interesting one. And my favorite insight there is that searches for tax extension are always at their highest every year on tax day. So a lot of procrastinators out there, it seems.
There are, and of course, the NBA playoffs must have been hot in the searches as well.
Yes, and they continue to be as those games continue on. A lot of people, of course, across the country looking for their favorite local team. But we do see overall the most searched matchup was the Brooklyn Nets versus the Boston Celtics. I think a lot of people didn't expect that one to turn out the way that it did, of course, with Boston sweeping the Nets. And so disappointing news for New York fans. But all of that to say, I think we'll continue to see those searches go on as the tournament continues.
Any hot food trends in searches this month?
People love food, and I think people are eager for a new season. So we did look at the top search spring foods, and the first one was spring punch. So maybe a lot of people looking to host gatherings and parties. And so that is a recipe that a lot of people were interested in. But we also saw interest in spring salads, which seems to make sense, but also spring soup, which was a little bit unexpected to me, but spring can be pretty temperamental weather-wise. And I know it's still cold out here on the East Coast sometimes, so people looking for that comfort food still.
Now, Toby Keith was one of the most searched for names over the past month, but not the Toby Keith you might think. Tell us about this.
That's correct. Not the country singer, but Toby Keith, a 21-year-old Chihuahua, who is in fact the oldest living dog and set the record for that. Chihuahuas typically live around 12 to 18 years, which in my opinion is still pretty old for a dog. But he took that title and that sparked a lot of searches, which spiked over 5,000%. And people were also interested in the oldest living cat as a result. Now, Guinness had confirmed that there's not currently a record holder for that, but it previously belonged to a cat named Cream Puff, who lived to be 38 years old.
38 years old for a cat. Wow. And finally, there's another search that caught my eye in the trends, and that was Wordle cheating. How disheartening. Tell me about it.
People love Wordle and they're playing every day, and we're really seeing that reflected in the search trends. There was a study that came out that showed that Google search data is indicating that people are looking up a lot of Wordle answers, and that takes shape in a couple of different ways. First and most innocuously, people are just looking up definitions for Wordle words, maybe that they were unfamiliar with before. In April, 3 of the 5 top definitions were Wordle answers. But then we're also seeing spikes in searches for things like 5-letter words starting with NAT, which spiked over 5,000%. So people looking to get a little bit of help as they try to guess correctly every day.
Interesting. I wonder if it's illegal to use Google during Scrabble games.
I'd have to check the rules on that one.
So for more information on all of these, where's the best place for people to go, Molly?
You can head to google.com/trends to explore all of these and more.
Always lots of fun. Molly VandenBerg, thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.